For-profit practices that work in a nonprofit world. This video is basically designed to support CFDCs in looking at new revenue opportunities, revenue diversification, and actually starting to look at a fee-for-service. There's many different ways to actually make money in a nonprofit world, and just the first step in understanding that making profit is still an important thing, and breaking even is still an important thing. Being a nonprofit doesn't mean that you don't make money, and really we're going to look at a lot of trends that are making this more of a reality today than ever before. So who am I? My name is Carla Langhorst. I'm one of the co-founders of Small Business Solver, and my background is varied in both for-profit organizations as well as nonprofit, and really seeing the differences and some of the ways that we can actually leverage what for-profits are doing for nonprofits. So my background being Coca-Cola, Canadian Pacific Railway, consulting firms, as well as on the nonprofit side working with the United Church of Canada and community futures across Canada and chambers and associations throughout North America. So really having a broad spectrum of what everybody's doing. So the key thing here that we have to start with, and before we really jump into this, is just understanding the main difference. And really, it's a paradigm shift that we need to make as nonprofits, especially in today's day and age. So as a CFDC, we often look at this type of diagram with our clients. So we say, start with your business plan. And for any of our loan recipients, they obviously had to have a business plan for us to move them forward. And with our loan applicants, often we're helping them with the business plans. Or with the self-employment benefits program, we're helping them with the business plan. We have structures, we have brand, we have funding, we have assets, we have people, just like many of our loan recipients have. But there's one or two things in this diagram that's different about the for-profit businesses that we help. They do marketing and they have a market, and they focus on sales. And here's really the big gap here, is that a CFDC and most nonprofits don't have a selling mindset. And this is a huge paradigm shift for us. So when we're talking about revenue diversification, we're looking at ways for each of our centers to rev up. And when we think about the revenue and we're thinking about bringing in cash flow, that really is a sales initiative. Doesn't matter if we're applying to foundations for more grants and more funding, that's still a sales pitch by itself. What about having a fee for service? That's going to be another sales pitch. So this is a huge paradigm shift for us to go through. What we're going to be talking about is current trends and the top challenges that result from that, the sales mindset and basically how to overcome that or perform the paradigm shift, then business models and pricing models that we can be looking at to actually rev up our centers. So within the nonprofit space, there's a few different trends that are happening. Number one, donors are more engaged than ever before. In fact, most donors who donate money also donate time. There's a focus on metrics. Donors care about where their money is going. So there's a big focus here on show me the numbers. So what's the social benefit that you're giving? What's your return on investment? It's no longer sustainable to be reliant on a single donor. Gone are the days, even with United Churches or faith organizations. They would have relied on one or two families to cover all of their operating expenses for a year. Now, it actually would take 50 or even 100 families to support a church, sometimes even more, depending on the maintenance of the building. The same is actually happening not just for faith organizations, but all nonprofits. It's no longer realistic to rely on a single donor. Social enterprise is the new buzzword. Basically, a social enterprise is any organization that helps the community and helps deliver some common good. Doesn't have to be nonprofit anymore. There's a ton of for-profit organizations that provide social benefits. Venture philanthropy, that's another key concept, is basically people who invest in social enterprises. So they're actually lending money or becoming part of some of these enterprises that are providing social good and social benefit. And the final thing is basically the growth rate. Nonprofits, the size of the pie is not getting bigger. So the number of donations are not really getting bigger. Even as the GDP as a whole is growing, the percentage that is within for GDP is remaining at 2 to 3%. And actually the nonprofit industry has remained at 2 to 3% for decades. So we're not actually increasing. Top challenges faced today. Well, because of these trends, we have a few different things that are happening. Number one, more demanding donors. So because they're more engaged, they're asking for more communication, they want more customer touch points, they want to know what's happening. They are going to be more demanding of both the time that they invest and also getting more information, such as the metrics. We have more people who are part of our donor base because we can't rely on one. So we need a better communication strategy. We have to engage more people. We need an active marketing plan to actually engage everyone. We're competing against for-profits. So like I said, social enterprise doesn't necessarily mean that you're nonprofit anymore. So for-profits are making a go at this industry. And the size of the pie is constant. That means that competition is increasing rapidly. And this is something that we actually have to differentiate ourselves for us to be sustainable. Just a reminder though, of course, our mindset is always about the social good and the mission that we're giving right now. So in our own heads, we realize that we're doing something really good. However, we're not selling it. And really, there is a moral case for promotion. So the whole idea of finish your meal, I mean, if someone doesn't finish their meal, is it immoral to waste food? And the whole argument is yes, because people elsewhere are starving. So you actually should be finishing your meal. Well, the same thing applies for if you have a great organization and you have great infrastructure and support like CFDC has, then you have a service that makes the world a better place. And the question is it immoral not to promote it? And really, if CFDC is helping people reach their dreams, which is an amazing service that definitely makes the world a better place exponentially, then it is immoral not to promote it and not to be selling. So hopefully this helps you with your mindset, is that really, if there were no CFDCs, if there was no small business coaches and analysts helping the small businesses, what would happen? And it has been proven that having a coach, having a mentor, working with CFDCs improves your chance of success. So what would happen if we're not there? Well, this would happen. So because of that, we have to change our mindset and realize that it's immoral not to tell people what we're doing. And if we weren't there and if people didn't know we were there, then what's going to happen to them? So we have to realize that CFDCs are number one, and really we have to go through this paradigm shift and start selling. So how do you sell? What's the motivation behind us? Well, answer these two questions. My organization is great because... Maybe your CFDC is great because you help people reach their dreams. Maybe your CFDC is great because you make a huge difference in the community. What kind of difference? Put that in here. Remind yourself of how important it is that your center is there. I'm a great salesperson because blank. So not only is it about your organization, but you have to realize that you are capable of selling. And selling isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we always think about the door-to-door salesperson and people like that. But remember, if you're not telling people about your organization and your center, what's happening to them? They potentially are not getting the help and the resources that they need. So remember, my organization is great because, and I'm a great salesperson because, well, is it because you're a great listener? Is it because you're really motivational? Is it because you care? Is it because you're honest? Is it because you have integrity? There's lots of great attributes that could make you different than someone else at being a great salesperson. And I've seen so many different tactics work, but really take whatever your strength is. Is it communicating? Is it listening? Is it presenting? Is it your smile? It could be something as simple as that. And whatever it is, keep on telling yourself that you're great, because that's a really important part of the paradigm shift, the mindset change to beginning to sell. So each center does have different challenges, but one big mantra that I'd love to pass on to you is that sales often solves problems. So if we start with the selling mindset, whatever our challenge is, if we're having sales, we now have a budget to fix problems. So let's say you don't think that your center is efficient enough. Okay, great. If sales solves problems, let's focus on the sales side. Now we have a budget, we can increase our technology budget. So once we've decided and we really have in our head that we are going to be selling, then there's 3 major strategic sales decisions that we have to make. Number 1, what revenue streams are we actually going to focus on selling? So what products and services are we selling? Number 2, how are we going to be pricing that? And number 3, do we need strategic partnerships to help us in whatever direction we've decided to go? So if we jump into this, here's some different revenue stream ideas. So maybe you wanted to add in some of these other things like coaching services, a membership piece to it, additional training or job postings available in here. But the key thing is that whatever revenue streams, so products or services that you're providing to your client base, be it loan recipients or applicants or the community itself, you need to really understand what they're looking for. So here's a great example of a mind mapping activity, and potentially this would be your loan recipient. So starting a business is very, very emotional. So potentially offering more emotional help. Is it face-to-face chatting, maybe a group getting together, entrepreneurs helping each other, or it could actually just simply be coaching. Entrepreneurs who are moving forward, sales is always a big problem. Just for us, is sales solves problems for them too. So sales training. The next here would be admin. So maybe they need help with bookkeeping and HR and all the details that takes them so long and they have a huge learning curve on. And what's really neat is within your network, you already have these people. So it'd be really, really easy to create really a group and an incubator to support this type of thing. So really starting with who your customer is and how you can support them. Here's another way that you can do it, is you can actually describe who your customer is and what your product or service is, and then see if anything's missing. And if you actually do it in this area, starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 6, what happens is that you can actually prioritize when you develop each of these new products or services that's going to be adjacent or supplementary and complementary to what you currently have. So if we start in box number 1, who's your customer? Maybe your customer is actually the municipalities because you're providing social benefit. Your offering is going to be economic development support. What do they need or want? Well, they actually want to have a chamber of commerce or some sort of association or some sort of face-to-face meetings. That's great. What else do they need? Maybe they need coaching or seminars and things like that. And maybe there's a way to actually charge for the social good back to your municipality. And when you have the whole offering or the full offering, you can present this as a proposal to look for a new revenue stream from the municipality. Now all of a sudden, you've given yourself a second funder. Another customer that you could have here is actually your loan applicant. So what are they looking for? Well, they're tire kicking. They're seeing if their business idea will fly. Maybe you have a ramp-up kit based on that. Maybe you have a startup kit to get someone started in less than 3 months or something at a lower cost and with less of a learning curve than they could do by themselves. So these are different ways at looking at who your client base is. So how do you price something like this? Well, there's different options, and when we look at a consulting firm, these are typical pricing models that a consulting firm would use. Number 1 is an hourly fee. So an hourly fee is always going to be the highest. Let's say, for instance, and a typical coaching hourly fee is anywhere from $200 to $250 an hour. And that's based on a one-time deal, a one-time contract. I show up, I meet with you face-to-face, and it's $250. The next is actually a product or a package. So maybe it's not just for the hour, but it's actually a fixed fee on an entire product. So not only do you include maybe 2 hours or 3 hours of coaching, but you also include a book, or you include some business cards or something else. It would be a package. The next one would be a lump sum. What this basically is that they give you upfront money for, let's say, 50 hours of work or even 20 hours of coaching, and then every single month you can keep track of how many hours that you're working at, and you would take away or draw from that lump sum that they gave you up front. The whole idea is that the average hourly fee would be less than if they had paid their original hourly fee here. So instead of $200 or $250 an hour, this might drop down to $100 or $150 an hour. A retainer, again, your hourly fee on average goes down, but something like this would be anywhere from, let's say, $400, $500 up to $2,000 a month, and it depends on how many services and what you're responsible for. What's really great here is that this gives you some consistent income, and it also helps your entrepreneurs in doing things that they actually can't handle themselves internally, so it helps them scale up as well. And then the last piece is some sort of performance piece. So if we hit a certain revenue target with you this year and helping your business hit X, Y, or whatever it is, then some percentage of that actually comes back to the center to support future initiatives. So there's lots of really interesting ways to do things like this. And of course, everyone's going to be structured slightly differently in what they can do. However, you really need to go through this process to see what makes sense for you and your clientele. The next thing to look at is, now that we know what products and services we want to sell, as well as for your clients, as well as what pricing options are out there, we have to figure out if we can actually deliver everything ourselves. And often, and in fact this is a huge trend, it makes sense not to do everything yourself. So there's 4 different types of strategic partnerships that you can look for. Joint ventures, management service organizations, or MSOs, parent corporations, mergers, and let's jump into each of them. So starting with joint ventures, why would you want to do them? Well, it's great if you need a lot of partners. If you're in a fast-paced environment, it really keeps you flexible, and it's easy to exit any of the arrangements. You can enable any knowledge sharing between everyone, and it can actually get you into new markets. If someone has maybe a different clientele, this is a great fit. A great idea of a joint venture for any of the CFDCs would be with a chamber of commerce or another association. They have a different type of membership than some of the clients that you have, but maybe similar needs. So there might be a great way to work here. Management service organization. Why would you do something like this? Well, what this is basically when you centralize basic services like HR, contract management, IT, things like that, and basically or bookkeeping and accounting. And the whole idea behind this is basically it reduces the costs by consolidating everything. It creates economies of scale. And also the internal support is better than the individual organization, so your clientele could have actually afforded by themselves. Why a parent company? Well, this one might be a little bit trickier, but basically when you do something like that, it allows you to have specialized areas, and it also allows each subsidiary to act differently while leveraging the management. Why a merger? Well, there are 4 different types of mergers, and again, maybe something with a chamber might make sense here, or even an association might help out here. And sometimes you do it horizontally, so it's when 2 similar organizations merge. Sometimes it's vertically, so it'd be 2 different organizations within the same supply chain. Sometimes you do a conglomerate. It's when 2 completely unrelated organizations merge, and it allows you to diversify. So this is for risk management, and maybe if there's seasonality, you have 2 unrelated things and you can use your manpower for both. Concentric is 2 organizations in the same industry but unrelated. In for-profit, this would be probably a transportation company and a custom broker. They actually go after the same target market with different services. So could be synergies on any of these depending on what your goal is. So just a reminder, here's the 4 major types of strategic partners, and maybe one of these will work for your organization. And then the other thing is just to start sharing. So what are other centers doing? What really makes sense? So what we covered were the current trends, top challenges, the sales mindset and how important this is, different business models, and different pricing models. Again, our goal is to find new ways for each center to rev up, and really the starting point is the sales mindset. If you want any other information, please feel free to contact us, either Carla, that's C-A-R-L-A, at smallbusinesssolver.com, or Lori at smallbusinesssolver.com. That's L-O-R-I at smallbusinesssolver.com. Love to chat with any of you and help you guys move forward.